found, I feel like it's a journey. And I think even if you talk to a whole room full of Catholics or Sikhs or whomever, they're all perceiving messages from their text that governs them in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. And we see that all the time, right? So it's really an individual journey. And one of the benefits of religion, for example, is that it gives people a sense of community, right? They're bonding over something where they have a certain commonality in their belief. And we all crave that because we're communal by nature, right? We like to be in relationship and do things together. But it's an individual journey. And so people will evolve into my world, if and when what I'm sharing resonates with other people.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about your practice and how you walk somebody through the process. Let's say they hear the show and it's like, I've got a lot of time on my hands right now. I'm ready to explore the dimensions of my own life. And they pick up the phone and call or email you. How does somebody start, or what are some of the first steps that you take with somebody?
Well, people that are coming into my world are already pretty far along on their spiritual journey, right? Because I talk about some pretty deep stuff. So usually people have already had some sort of spiritual awakening by the time they found some of the stuff that I have listed on my website. I don't actually work with people personally anymore, other than any high-level business clients that I have. But if people want to take the training, really the best place to start is with some of the free offers that I have on my website to even decide whether they resonate with, me and my teaching style and the ways in which they can, go deeper. And then from there, we're going to either be letting people know what things we have coming down the pipeline, or people are going to reach out and say, hey, can I have some more information about X?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, because we try to be a resource on this show for people that are exploring career options. And, this is definitely, obviously, has been a career for you in a number of fields as it all relates to your own spiritual journey. What advice do you give to people that are interested in working in the field that you're in and expanding their own knowledge within the field?
Mm-hmm. I like to start at the meta level. So I would say have fun with it and allow it to be fun, and set the intention that whatever is meant to cross your path will cross your path. And then from there, just explore, let the exploration of it be fun. We're way too attached to being right or wrong, which is a very old paradigm way of showing up in the world, right? I'm going to get it wrong or I'm going to get it right. And that motivates a lot of our decisions. There's no finish line to this. It's a lifetime journey. And so I would start with what's lighting me up and then go down that rabbit hole for a bit and see whether it's something that you want to actually dedicate more time to pursuing. As far as getting into my field, people, typically they've either taken some classes or they've, just have some natural abilities. I would recommend watching people that you admire about how they show up in the world, and kind of study what they're doing that resonates with you, and maybe some things that don't resonate with you, so that you can find your way, right? Even when people say to me, how do I design a website that matches my brand? I say, well, go find the websites, go find 3 to 5 websites that speak to you, and you'll be able to see what aspects of these websites appeal to you and which aspects don't. And the same would be for any spiritual teachings or any, specific methodologies that might light people up.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you're very encouraging, it sounds like, in just about everything. The career path that you've chosen, has it been tough? Would you encourage others, if they feel compelled to do it, to go down that road? Or would it be simpler to maintain it as a hobby and a way of life?
Mm-hmm. That's a tricky question to answer, right? Because I wouldn't know someone's background. But what I would say is that there's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and being a freelancer. So if someone's interested in setting their own time and doing all of their own marketing and doing all of their own accounting and all of their own sales and all of the things that they probably don't see their company doing for them if they're in a job, then they have to decide whether they love what they do enough to be willing to do the things that are outside of their wheelhouse. Because most business owners have to do things, especially in the beginning. For me now, I can delegate almost everything, and I just can stay in my zone of genius, but that wasn't always the case. I was the personal assistant, and I was the accountant, and I was the paralegal, and I was the, copywriter, and I was all of these things, literally wearing probably 50 hats in my business. And if that is appealing to someone because of the thought of working for themselves and getting paid for their own ideas and having complete freedom about who they serve and what times of day they serve and, what their messaging is and being able to speak their truth, then they'll decide that all of that is worth more than some of the temporary inconveniences of, the more administrative pieces or the things that just don't come natural, right? They're willing to do the research, take the classes to learn how to do the things that aren't in their wheelhouse. Most entrepreneurs don't, even for people that I coach. Most people like the idea of being an entrepreneur, but they're not willing to do what it takes. And our conviction to being in service and our conviction to living on purpose needs to far exceed all of the temporary inconveniences of things that we just naturally have to do as the steward of our business to make sure that our business is healthy.
Yeah, that's such a good
point. Yeah. So if someone wants to be a freelancer, that's literally just exchanging time for dollars. People knock on your door. They say, hey, can I buy a package, coaching package from you or a healing package from you or whatever? And then when that's done, they go and find their next client. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not sustainable. It will burn people out. And some people learn that and some people don't. If you take a dentist or, someone along those lines, they're self-employed, right? They build themselves into a job. And they take on all of the things that an employer would typically take on. Like I said, the accounting and the payroll and the marketing and the booking and all those things. But they want to do that because they want to work for themselves. And someone that's not necessarily selling their time for dollars. Maybe they're selling their ideas, they're selling their IP, they're, selling products, whatever, but they're always looking at what's the next thing I can innovate, what's the next thing I can do to razzle dazzle my clients. So it's a different mindset. People that I'm sure I know way back in the day when I took a quiz, I didn't even realize I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I had only been raised to believe that the job was the appropriate way of living and it was the only way to guarantee security. So I couldn't understand why I was having these, wobbles, right, in my job. In any job I worked in, when I did a quiz, I just happened to stumble across a quiz online, and I scored 100% as far as entrepreneurial spirit. And then it all made sense. I was like, oh, no wonder I had to go out on my own. But it's still scary, and it does require a level of faith. And really what it requires is being willing to gamble on ourselves, right? If that gamble feels too risky, we won't take that leap. But if we know that we're willing to have both feet in and do whatever it takes to have a successful business, then it will be so.
You have absolutely given the best 4-minute discussion on starting your own business and what it takes, and also being courageous enough to do it. So thank you so much for that. I've had a lot of entrepreneurs on the show, and you just nailed it in the last few minutes. The world is going through COVID-19 right now, and I live personally in a world of more than enough, a world of optimism, and a world of what I believe to be positive vibration. And I think the more of that I can be doing, and maybe it's a very small role in what's out there, especially since where I live, the population is small. But, how can we all focus on having a higher vibration with positive energy? Is there any tips? Because I would assume at this point that that's something that you'd also practice or believe in, is the vibration of our souls and who we are.
Totally. Yeah. I will start by saying, because I notice I'm paying attention to the conversations just because that's me, right? I observe human behavior. That's what I've been trained to do. I can't help myself. I find all of us, including myself, fascinating. I think we're all just cute. We do cute things as humans, right? And so during all of this, I'm seeing people policing conversations. I'm seeing people avoid conversations and hide out. I'm seeing people be highly conflict oriented. I'm seeing people bypassing all of this and just living from this too shall pass instead of really acknowledging what's going on for people, right? And then And so I will say with all of that, that I noticed that there's a different conversation happening with those of us that have financial security versus those of us who don't. Mm-hmm. So I want to just acknowledge that, because my viewpoint of the world comes through multiple layers of privilege, right? I have white privilege. I have financial security. I've been building that for several years. And, I worked as a public servant. I had a public servant salary, which meant I lived just below the line or just above the line. And I've now built out multiple ways of having myself financially taken care of, right? So I can create financial resilience. I didn't know I was being prepared for this, but now that I'm in it, I can see why I kept being guided to do these things, even though it didn't make sense. Because in my head, I would think, I'm just this feely person. Why am I being guided to invest in real estate? Why am I being guided to buy gold? Why am I being guided to do all these things? Well, now I know.
Yeah.
But all of that to say that because I have a level of financial resilience and I have white privilege and I live in a developed country with universal health care and I have all kinds of perks, right? The way that I'm going to talk to people about this naturally, right? My natural slant is going to be different than someone that relies on sending their kid to school in order for them to get lunch and everything in between, right?
Sure.
So I'm seeing some folks that are way too far removed from, the day-to-day living, right? Folks that are $100 million net worth. They're like, guys, don't worry, we'll get through this. You've got this. I'm like, you need to stop with that. I'm all for positivity, but it's a little too patronizing, honestly, because that's great. Tell me how to get through this.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just tell me we're going to get through it. If you've gotten to where you are in life, then you're feeling the pain, right? You're not understanding. So I don't believe in being the life raft, by the way. I believe in being the lighthouse, and I do feel like light workers are really being called up right now, right? And some people are choosing to step up and some people aren't. But what I will say is that, yes, back to frequency, we know that fear and anger and despair and hopelessness vibrate at a much lower frequency than gratitude, joy, unconditional love, things like that. So our goal, and I've been getting this from my guides for the last several weeks, we absolutely must be vigilant about protecting our two greatest assets, which are our third eye and our energy field, our light body, our frequency. Mm-hmm. And we have multiple ways we can do that. We can be doing Reiki on ourselves every day. We can be listening to frequency music on YouTube for free that helps boost immunity or helps release dopamine or, any of these things that are going to keep us happy and feeling connected. We need to really minimize what we're taking in from the news, because I don't care what news agency it is, they all have an agenda, mm-hmm. right? And they all have a slant. We need to absolutely minimize our exposure to social media, because holy cow, there's a lot of stuff on there. There's a lot of different energies. Like it's much more frenetic, I find, on social media right now than it typically is. We need to be mindful of how much water we're putting in our body, whether we're using essential oils, or maybe we're listening to Mozart effect, right? To be channeling some genius energy and being connected with that genius vibration. But we have to take full responsibility for how we're managing these two assets, because if we don't, we are only going to see fear, or we are only going to see despair. We will see exactly what we're a vibrational match for. And so if we want to be elevating our wealth consciousness right now, we have to be taking in energy that matches that, right? And so listening to podcasts, for example, where people are holding a different frequency, right? Even if we don't know these people, it still kind of falls in that category of we are the 5 people we spend the most time with. Even mm-hmm. if we don't know them, but we're inviting in that consciousness, we're doing ourselves a huge favor, right? And writing out our mantras, even if it feels like it's pointless, right? Like even if we're writing to our future self, or writing as though things have already happened in our journal, that might seem pointless. Like, what's the point? I don't know what's going to happen. Some people feel like this is Handmaid's Tale and it's just a matter of time before we're all microchipped and whatever, right? And I mean, I can't say that that's not going to happen, but I got to think that with 8 billion people on the planet, that we maybe have more control over that happening, right, than what's being purported. I mean, I have enough faith in humanity to rise up in the event that we really start to see a lot of control mechanisms coming in. But that being said, I can't minimize, like I can't dismiss it, I should say, because can I guarantee that's not going to happen? Well, no, of course not. But the likelihood of it happening, in my opinion, not so much. But all of that to say that I'm all about practical spirituality. So what can we do